Did I do anything? I can't tell. I need glasses, y'all.
You got it.
Okay, so then it breaks it down and gives you a little quote. It says closing fee. We've got it automatically in there at $850. What is your closing fee?
$950.
$950. So I may go in and adjust this and put $950 in. I think I can do that. And then it's got title insurance split between them. That's your lender's title, which usually goes to the buyer. It's got your FedEx fees. Your search and exam is usually $300, and that's split. And then if you go on down, it gives you recording and transfer fees.
Do you know who does this? Do you have
This one's Old
access to
Republic.
people who-
Yes,
Okay.
I can go in and we can manually put some things in.
Because on the Birmingham contract,
Mhm.
if the lenders and owners policy are simultaneous, they split their policies.
Okay,
That's the default. So we need to go and change that one too.
okay. And I can do that. And then the seller net sheet, same thing. It's really very self-explanatory. You put in what you need. Sales price, $250. When you expect the closing date to be.
We all know that that's never gonna be the actual
Yeah.
closing date.
So you can manually adjust the fees right here or adjust an existing fee. So if you know the closing cost, we have in there, like I said, $850 and you know it's gonna be $950, you can adjust it there. You can go in and put your commissions in. It gives you everything. It's just really simple. You can do it from your phone. If you have a printer that you carry with you, you can print it out and give it to them. Property taxes, it allows you to put those in. And you can add whatever expenses and credits you got.
So the other expenses and credits, that's gonna be if you know of a wood infestation report charge that your client's to pay for, or they're buying a home warranty. Most of that stuff will all be in the contract. You can see, you can say, oh, I know that they're gonna have this much of a charge. And that will be what the other expenses are gonna be. In the property taxes, that's where you'll go on the property tax website, and that's kind of what we talked about on the homestead. How you can see if it's exempt, how you calculate it, or if it's homestead or not homestead.
I mean, other than that, it's really just real self-explanatory.
Does the app go ahead and prorate the taxes?
I think it does.
Okay there.
Pepper's hot.
Annual property taxes, let's say they're $1,800. Property tax rate is better than that. What do you think?
So you can share that right in if you, I didn't know that you could do that through the phone. I like that. So you could technically share that right into Dotloop, slap a signature on it, get it signed on the spot. I like that. And all we gotta do is send you our email?
Yeah, or I can text it to you. I can text it to you. It shows up as an actual, like I put in Alabama title, it's an actual
That's
link
all it
on
is?
my computer.
When you
and-
pull it up, it brings you this little black rectangle at the bottom that says it shows you how to add it to your.
Yeah, it
That's
shows
handy.
you how to add it to you. You just put in your email address and.
Especially in a listing presentation, because that's a pretty common thing. So you don't
Just a
always have a
little
computer.
quick, easy value added for you guys.
It's super user friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
download this to your phone.
And then,
Download this to your phone.
because that's
Yeah.
easy for y'all. Any questions?
Handy.
When you, what do you?
Go and see the options.
Nice.
So you can do a buyer's or a seller net sheet.
Closing disclosure quote. Sellers multiple offers. You just have to go in and play with it. But once you get used to it, it's got a lot of features that you guys can
And you
use.
can order title directly from
Yes,
this. So you can
you
go in, after you do the net sheet, it'll say order title. And you can just click it and it'll send it automatically.
So right there at a listing presentation, you can pull this up, give them an estimate of what they're gonna make, order the binder right from the gate.
You can do a preliminary. I love to do preliminaries. That way, if we have any issues, we've got enough time to try to address them.
That's
I
awesome.
will say it's busy right now. So we do put the purchases first and we work in the preliminaries as we can, but we still use, I think we got all yours out
You
within
got
a
all
week.
mine, like, lickety split, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always like to do a prelim with mine, it just keeps any delays from
Right.
happening on the.
I love that, and we would love for you guys to write in your contract, even if you guys are the buyer's agent, Alabama Title to do closing and Morgan Means at Farmer Law to do, us to do title and her to do closing. So, and if you put it in the contract, they usually don't argue with it.
Yeah.
We love that.
Mortgage lenders love that too. Like, we waste days trying to hunt down
Canopy.
who,
People that you don't know their work.
no, it's just, it's just not, like, in the Birmingham contract, there's not really a spot for it.
It's
So,
not,
so people aren't putting that in there. So if you could get in the habit of putting it in there and just put them in, it saves the mortgage lenders time too. Sometimes we'll burn days of not ordering title.
And if you're using a transaction coordinator, usually they'll have like a sheet that they send out. Like I know that a lot of you guys use Jennifer, and she'll send out a thing with like everybody's info that has, the communication.
like a who's who. on there,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I like that too. I think that that's really beneficial because it lets everybody know who we're supposed to be like getting the, the title to, who's the lender or, so.
Because a lot of lenders view title as one and the same, and I know we are separate, but we work really well together in that if I get one that I know needs to go to her, I immediately get it to her, and I try to email them back and make sure that they get everything directly to her. So,
I like the comfort of having like you guys like in my hand, because I know y'all, and I'm not calling some person that I've never even spoken to before. I know that if something goes wrong, I can call you guys at 6 o'clock on Friday evening or whatever. Like, hey,
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
like, and if you need copies of covenants and restrictions for a subdivision, if you've got somebody who's wanting to put an RV in there or build a privacy fence, I can get you covenants and restrictions and just whatever you need. We're here to help you.
Thank you.
Any more questions about the net sheet or anything? Anything at all?
What if it's a random question?
Random questions are good?
They love that.
Can you tell me about, and I always get confused, this one's a cash buyer, so then you don't split title?
Okay, so in the standard contract, do you use the standard? Okay, so in the standard contract, the seller will provide the owner's title policy unless there is a loan and the lenders and owners are simultaneous, at which time they're split. So unless you have something in there that says buyer pays all closing costs and title, I always, because the contract says it, have set the seller paying for the title. I like a specification in it just because they always mean, if it says buyer to pay closing costs, they always mean title too. And so usually I'll just clarify, I'll say, is this also title? Can we do it addendum? Because, usually if the buyers pay the closing costs, they also agree to pay the title. But in the contract, it defaults to the seller paying the title and everybody splitting. Also, on that very last page where it says they do or do not agree to equally share, if they do not agree to equally share, you need to note on there who's paying for closing costs. Because a lot of times people say they do not agree, but then they don't tell who's gonna pay it.
Well, tell them how that paragraph ends up if nobody specifies. How does that fall on if they do not agree?
The buyer
That's what nobody understands.
is the buyer if they don't agree. For the closing and the seller for title. If you check no on that one. Anything else? Any random questions that have to do with homestead or
Random
net
just-
sheet?
Title questions, issues, anybody?
No, I will say on yours, because before I got here, I was into another title rep, but I like when you send me over stuff and you circle like the numbers in red, so I don't have to like go, because most of the time like I get it all on my phone like really quickly.
Right.
But I like that you circle things in red that need to be addressed, so kudos to you for doing that. It makes it so much easier than me having to scroll through 15 pages of something and figure it out.
Now, that is one of my examiners, so I'll try to start doing that too. But what I did is I went back and I said, please note, we have
Right,
a
yeah, you
possible
do that
judgment
too.
on this one, or we have a first and a second mortgage that has to be paid off. So I try to look at every single title that goes out. I'm not gonna say one may not slip by me, so I always encourage my agents to look at Schedule B, Section 1, whenever they get anybody's title commitment, because that's the list of things that has to be taken care of to have a clear closing. So, but I try to always back it up with an email or a text that says, hey, just want to make sure you read it and you know that this exists. So nobody's surprised 3 days before closing when somebody finally looks at the title.
We don't have that issue because as soon as you send them to me,
Mhm.
I look
You
at
look at
them
them.
and then I
You
put
look
them in
at
environment.
You wouldn't believe how many closing attorneys do not.
Until the morning of.
I mean, seriously, day before.
And they're like, oh, by the way, this can't close.
Mhm.
So as soon as Cindy sends, the title to me, I always review the commitment, and then if there's anything that's a requirement that I'll need from you guys, I send an email and I say, hey, I need X or whatever it is. But most of it I've just been clear on my own. Like I send out a seller's, info sheet at the very beginning that has their signature on it that says we can get their payoff, and so I can get the payoff, for them before any of that. That's usually the biggest issue on their.
So you don't have to, so I don't need to call 10 days before closing and tell them, hey, they need to get paid off.
No.
I didn't
A
know
lot of
that.
attorneys won't do that.
No,
but
I've
she
always
does.
had to call
Yeah.
my sellers and be like, hey, make sure you get, a 10-day payoff and send it. So
No,
no,
so that's why I send that.
I didn't know that.
I send an info sheet at the very, very beginning. It says, thank you for choosing us to close. Please fill out this sheet. And it gives you kind of a list of anything that I need. Like if you're gonna be a mail away, or if it's an entity, or, if it's an estate, let us know. And in that sheet, there's like a signature line on there for them. And I place them for their social. A lot of people don't want to put their social, but we need it, to get that payoff, so.
Oh, okay, cool. Didn't know, so I don't have to do that on mine. That's gonna close paperwork. So you've already done it.
Already done it.
Awesome. Makes my life easier.
How do you guys handle, because right now there's one that I won't say that a lot of times people try going through. I don't, but a lot of people do because they're cheaper, they offer incentives. It seems like everybody, I don't know if they're the biggest one around here.
Who?
We're not saying
Who
that.
is it?
We're not saying who.
He said
Well, I'll
we're
say
not.
it, Canopy.
Oh, we don't want to be,
Yeah. I don't know, like every other deal I get, when I'm on the buyer side, everybody's like, yeah, I go through them.
Canopy title, it used to be title.
So
Oh,
they're
is
Realty
it?
South.
Oh, it used to be
They're owned by
Title
Realty
South.
South.
So why would other people go to that one then? I mean, like everybody that I've talked to, I'm like, oh, I never heard of that one. I use this person.
You're
They're like,
affiliated with Realty South, which is a lot of leverage.
yeah, but they're not really South agents, so.
Oh.
So that's where I'm like,
amazing.
and I was told it was because they're cheaper.
Okay, maybe they are.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm like, it doesn't seem like anybody could really undercut people that far. I mean, it's kind of
You
set
can.
rates, right?
I mean, title rates are set.
Yeah, like,
Our only
we're
difference
talking $100,
is-
like
Well, I
maybe?
mean, each underwriter has their own set of filed rates. So in between 5 underwriters I have, there could possibly at any price point be maybe $100. Usually
Right.
it's not, it's 15 or 20.
Right,
And not one is always cheaper than the other. So it's not like I can say, well, I'm gonna always use this underwriter because it's cheaper, because at certain price points, they're not.
And on
Right.
our settlement fee, we try to keep that in line with
Yeah.
other people in town what their settlement fees are.
I
And
guess
I
I thought
think
everybody
in
was using them.
general,
I'm just-
everybody
I'm not
in
using
Birmingham
them, I'm just saying when I don't get the choice. It always
You know,
just can't
so-
beat them like, I thought that was up here thing.
So
What
that
was the
was,
question? Sorry.
yeah.
Well, that was
Cheap
it. I was
wise, I
trying
don't
to
think
figure out, I
there
thought
is
like
a-
they were the biggest ones up here. Like, it seems like everybody that's not on the buy side, when I get one on the buy side, they're always like, oh, we closed the Canopy. And I'm like, okay. And they haven't been doing great with some of the closings, as I've discovered. Insurance payments have forgotten to get paid out and stuff like that. They've done some things that aren't great, but I don't know, it seems like everybody, and they're not all Realty South agents, so I don't understand why they're going to it.
They used to be inside
just write it in the
brokers.
contract.
still
and
are.
then have an option.
Right,
Just write it in the contract.
yeah.
Well, if you're the seller, then you're getting the contract from them. If it's already in the contract, then it's.
Well,
I think they
but-
know what he's
Counter it.
Yeah,
Oh,
That
you
would-
are the seller?
well, when I'm the seller, we're going through you
Yeah.
guys on that,
But on
but
the buyer's.
I'm
side,
talking on
you
the
write
buyer's
contract,
side, yeah.
just
Oh,
write
you're
it
talking
in.
about when you're the.
right, I had to write it in.
But they don't counter it, and then once it's signed, it's too late.
Set up anyways, yeah.
But.
It still has to be a contract between the
Right.
buyer and the seller.
That's
I mean,
true.
most of the time they don't challenge it.
So just put it in the additional provisions
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah. Wish they had that spot.
Yeah,
That's nice
title
of all
to be
of them.
provided by Alabama title, closing to be.
A lot of the agents that are sending me stuff also, if I'm on the earnest money, it'll say earnest money held by, and they just put in like Palmer Law right there, so that they'll go ahead and send me the earnest money, I'll hold earnest money, and then they know that it's coming.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so that
that's
makes
a good
it.
way too.
And then it's not really like,
Negotiations, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
If you
super-
hold people's earnest money, if like, somebody's starting out on the home buying process, can they go ahead and like, whether they're putting the contract on a house or not, can they go ahead and throw earnest money to Palmer Law?
They probably wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that until you get the contract. So you wouldn't put the earnest money down until you.
It's not a bad idea though.
I was just curious, like, if they're motivated,
I like
they
it.
have to get into Birmingham in the next month because of a job change or something like that.
Well, so the
Gives you
contract is gonna
leverage.
give you a couple of days to get the earnest money in, but I mean, we would hold it, I guess, if they, you know,
Plus,
they
you don't know
ask
what
us to.
amount, like, cause they could counter you, want you to have more, or let, you know.
Okay.
But it's a good idea though, they're setting the precedence that we have to go to the
Oh, yeah,
vendor
they're
that we
already
want. You're
holding it,
taking
yeah.
power from
You'll
it.
see that from a lot of investors, they'll go ahead and specify who they
Yeah.
plan to send it to and all that kind of stuff, so that wouldn't hurt, but.
Just curious if it ever happened.
Well, that's another thing with the preliminary title. If you've already had a preliminary title done, most people are not gonna challenge you there because the title work's already been paid,
Yeah.
paid for. It's not gonna, you're not gonna want to pay for it twice. So they, a lot of people won't challenge you if you've already ordered preliminary title on your list.
Right. And another thing, if you do order title and it does end up getting canceled. Now, if somebody ordered 10 a month and 9 canceled, at some point we'd have to have a conversation, but I'm not gonna charge you a cancellation fee. Anything else? All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know what that word sauce is, I like that.
You missed that whole conversation we had a little bit ago.
What?
We're.
Are you not using that one, Jacob?
What were you writing on?
The
Using
orange
both.
sauce?
You are?